Welcome to Revive Nature. Today we're diving into DIY trash garden ideas, simple, creative ways to turn what you throw away into something beautiful for your garden. From tiny yards to rustic patios, this video is full of inspiration, and we've added timestamps so you can jump straight to the ideas you need. If you have questions, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content is a real story and a real family. This isn't just a video, it's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe keeps a dream alive. It gives hope to a small family, one click at a time. Thank you for being here, and thank you for seeing me. There is something quietly magical about a path lined with stones, simple, steady, guiding every step. But when those stones are brushed with playful shades of color, the ordinary transforms into a storybook moment, right in the heart of a small backyard or cottage garden. Painted pebbles hold the gentle power of turning a forgotten corner into a scene of joy. Their shapes remain natural, but the surface, kissed by colors of sky blue, soft lavender, spring mint, or sunrise pink, begins to speak the language of celebration. In a tiny yard where space is precious, a winding path edged with these pebbles becomes both functional and enchanting. Children are often drawn to follow the colors, skipping lightly from one curve to another, while adults find themselves smiling, reminded of simpler days spent collecting stones by a riverbank. The colors reflect light in surprising ways. Pastel hues brighten during dawn, glowing under morning dew, and soften again as evening settles, making every moment feel different. The flowers nearby play their role as companions. Marigolds bring a cheerful gold that echoes the warmth of painted yellows. Asters stretch their delicate purple faces to harmonize with lavender-tinted stones. Sedum autumn joy adds texture, its clusters catching shadows between the pebbles. Chrysanthemums, proud in their autumn bloom, frame the path with resilience against cooler air. Together, flowers and stones weave a picture of comfort and vitality. In a farmhouse-inspired garden or a tiny urban patio, this edging whispers of thrift and creativity. It is not an expensive design, nor is it demanding in labor. It is the hand of the gardener, holding a brush, painting each stone with patience, letting imagination bloom as much as the flowers. And so, what was once a plain pebble becomes a symbol of possibility, a tiny jewel set upon the earth. When the evening light falls, lanterns begin to glow, and the painted pebbles gleam softly against shadows, one realizes that beauty was never far away. It lived within the stones, waiting to be awakened with a splash of color. In these gardens, whether in a tiny backyard, a small patio, or a rustic front yard, the path of painted pebbles leads not only through the garden, but also into the heart of those who walk upon it. the gentle rhythm of a garden, there is a sound that soothes more deeply than words, the quiet murmur of flowing water. A rustic clay jar, once a vessel for grain or oil, finds a new voice when tilted on its side, releasing a silver stream into the waiting basin of stone. This simple act of transformation carries the spirit of upcycling, where old, forgotten objects discover new beauty in the garden's embrace. The clay jar, painted in soft farmhouse whites or left in the warm embrace of terracotta, sits proudly among flowers. Marigolds flicker like golden flames at its base, their scent keeping the air lively and fresh. Nearby, chrysanthemums bloom with resilience, echoing the fountain's endurance through changing seasons. Asters lean delicately, their purple and blue petals catching the spray of water as it falls, while sedum autumn joy adds a texture of rosy clusters that shimmer with morning dew. Together, the plants weave a tapestry of color around the fountain, each bloom heightened by the water's gentle sparkle. Even in a tiny patio or small yard, the fountain becomes a center of calm. Visitors pause, drawn by the sound. Children lean close, captivated by ripples spreading across the basin. Birds dip their beaks, finding refreshment in the stream. The jar itself, rustic and weathered, whispers of stories from long ago, its clay surface etched by time, now alive again through its new purpose. As dusk gathers, the fountain takes on another charm. Lanterns flicker to life around the pergola or gazebo, and the water reflects their glow. Painted designs on the jar catch the shifting light, while the steady sound of trickling water steadies the heart. It is not grandeur, but grace, born from simplicity, thrift, and care. In gardens across backyards, patios, and front yards, these clay jar fountains become more than decoration. They embody a belief that nothing is too old to be beautiful, that every piece of earth and hand-shaped clay has a place in the cycle of renewal. Here, rustic charm meets vibrant bloom, and the garden becomes not only a space to look upon, but a sanctuary to dwell within. There is a moment in every garden when sunlight becomes more than light, it turns into color, dancing through glass like a gentle symphony. The bottle prism garden fence captures this moment and holds it steady, allowing it to become part of daily life in a small yard or backyard retreat. Made from recycled bottles, each piece tells its own story, once holding water, juice, or wine, and now transformed into jewels that line the edge of a home's sanctuary. The bottles, painted or left in their natural hues of blue, green, and amber, stand upright in careful rows. Sunlight passes through them and spills across the soil, casting glimmers that shift with every passing cloud. Children marvel at the rainbow flickers, while adults pause to admire how something once discarded could become a lens for beauty. The garden feels alive with movement, not only in the blooms but in the very air filled with color. Flowers nearby embrace this spectacle. Marigolds beam in golden tones, echoing the warmth of amberglass. Asters bloom in shades of purple and blue, complementing the cooler bottles. Chrysanthemums and sedum add richness to the palette, thriving in the gentle climate and making the border look both strong and celebratory. Japanese anemones sway lightly, as if bowing to the kaleidoscope of light surrounding them. In the evenings, when lanterns are hung near pergolas or gazebos, the bottle fence transforms again. The glow of candlelight catches the curves of glass, sending soft reflections across patios and pathways. What was once trash now becomes a radiant stage for gatherings, laughter, or quiet solitude. Even in the smallest garden, the fence feels like a window into wonder. This idea belongs to the heart of upcycling, a belief that nothing is without value. Bottles, often overlooked, are given new purpose, not hidden away but celebrated in plain sight. They form a fence that is not only functional, marking boundaries, but also poetic, shaping light and space into something memorable. In tiny gardens, front yards, or farmhouse-style backyards, the bottle prism fence becomes a living artwork. It whispers of resourcefulness and creativity, while shining as proof that beauty need not be bought. It can be found, crafted, and shared with every beam of sun. There is a certain happiness that comes when color is given freedom, a joy that feels childlike yet timeless. The tin can rainbow planters bring this happiness into the garden, transforming what was once plain metal into a chorus of brilliance. Each can, once destined for the bin, becomes a vessel of life and bloom. Painted with bold rainbow shades or gentle pastel patterns, they line fences, patios, and garden borders with a spirit of cheer that no visitor can ignore. Imagine stepping into a tiny backyard where sunlight touches a row of cans glowing with red, blue, and green. From each, flowers spill over like laughter, marigolds radiating golden warmth, asters unfolding delicate purples, chrysanthemums bursting with autumn pride. Sedum autumn joy peeks out in rosy clusters, while Japanese anemones sway in the light breeze, their petals adding softness to the vibrant scene. The contrast of painted metal and blooming life feels both rustic and fresh, a meeting of humble and beautiful. Placed upon a pergola beam or hung by simple wires, the cans become playful lanterns of color during the day. They catch the eye, guide the gaze upward, and frame a patio corner with creativity. Children delight in the colors, tracing each one with their eyes, while adults admire the resourcefulness, how something so ordinary can be reborn into a piece of charm. As dusk descends, the magic shifts. Lanterns glow in the gazebo, and the cans reflect their flicker, turning the rainbow into a softer glow. Shadows of flowers play upon the walls, and the garden whispers with both energy and calm. These cans, painted by hand, tell stories not only of recycling but of care, patience, and joy woven into every brushstroke. It is not extravagance but simplicity that makes them beautiful. The garden gains not from wealth, but from creativity, the willingness to see potential in junk. This is the true heart of DIY and upcycling, where small spaces bloom with big imagination. Whether lining a farmhouse fence, brightening a tiny yard, or adding cheer to a city patio, the tin can rainbow planters remind us, every piece of trash has a hidden rainbow, waiting to be set free. There is peace in simplicity, and nowhere is it more clearly expressed than in a garden edged with bamboo and stone. Here, the rhythm of nature is respected, straight lines softened by curves, warm tones balanced with cool, and living blooms framed by elements that endure. The bamboo and stone's end borders invite the eye to rest, the mind to settle, and the heart to breathe. The bamboo stands like a quiet guardian, its golden green surface polished by sun and time. Between each stalk, stones rest in patient silence, their shapes smoothed by years of rivers and rain. Together, they create not just a boundary but a dialogue, bamboo whispers of growth, stone of permanence. The two in harmony shape the very character of the garden. Around this border, flowers bloom gently but with confidence. Chrysanthemums, proud symbols of autumn resilience, open their layered faces in shades of gold and cream. Asters add delicate purple and blue stars, while marigolds brighten the air with sun-like warmth. Sedum autumn joy, with its clustered blossoms, bridges the strength of stone with the softness of petals. And the Japanese anemone, tall and graceful, sways lightly, bowing to the calm. The effect is subtle yet powerful. In a small backyard or tiny patio, the bamboo and stone edging turns an ordinary corner into a Zen retreat. The garden path feels more deliberate, each step becoming mindful as gravel crunches softly underfoot. A water basin nearby reflects the sky, and the border frames this reflection like art upon the ground. As day fades, lanterns illuminate the bamboo, casting long, graceful shadows upon the stones. The garden becomes a place of contemplation, a sanctuary from the rush of life. Even in the smallest of spaces, the combination of bamboo and stone creates balance, between man and nature, between order and freedom. This is not a design of extravagance but of essence. It teaches that beauty is not in excess but in harmony. And so, with bamboo and stone, even a tiny garden in a crowded city can breathe like a wide-open Zen landscape, offering peace, calm, and timeless grace. There is peace in simplicity, and nowhere is it more clearly expressed than in a garden edged with bamboo and stone. Here, the rhythm of nature is respected, straight lines softened by curves, warm tones balanced with cool, and living blooms framed by elements that endure. The bamboo and stone Zen borders invite the eye to rest, the mind to settle, and the heart to breathe. The bamboo stands like a quiet guardian, its golden green surface polished by sun and time. Between each stalk, stones rest in patient silence, their shapes smoothed by years of rivers and rain. Together, they create not just a boundary but a dialogue, bamboo whispers of growth, stone of permanence. The two in harmony shape the very character of the garden. Around this border, flowers bloom gently but with confidence. Chrysanthemums, proud symbols of autumn resilience, open their layered faces in shades of gold and cream. Asters add delicate purple and blue stars, while marigolds brighten the air with sun-like warmth. Sedum autumn joy, with its clustered blossoms, bridges the strength of stone with the softness of petals. And the Japanese anemone, tall and graceful, sways lightly, bowing to the calm. The effect is subtle yet powerful. In a small backyard or tiny patio, the bamboo and stone edging turns an ordinary corner into a Zen retreat. The garden path feels more deliberate, each step becoming mindful as gravel crunches softly underfoot. A water basin nearby reflects the sky, and the border frames this reflection like art upon the ground. As day fades, lanterns illuminate the bamboo, casting long, graceful shadows upon the stones. The garden becomes a place of contemplation, a sanctuary from the rush of life. Even in the smallest of spaces, the combination of bamboo and stone creates balance, between man and nature, between order and freedom. This is not a design of extravagance but of essence. It teaches that beauty is not in excess but in harmony. And so, with bamboo and stone, even a tiny garden in a crowded city can breathe like a wide-open Zen landscape, offering peace, calm, and timeless grace. Every garden has its corners, the quiet spaces often overlooked, waiting to be given meaning. In the spirit of farmhouse charm, old jugs once used for water or grain return to life as vessels of bloom. Placed in corners of patios, backyards, or front yards, these farmhouse jug planter corners whisper of heritage while bursting with color. The jug itself, sturdy and timeless, carries a rustic beauty. Some are painted in shabby chic whites, decorated with hand-painted floral motifs. Others are left in warm terracotta, their natural clay tones harmonizing with the earth. When repurposed as planters, they overflow with life, chrysanthemums glowing in autumnal shades, marigolds flickering like golden lamps, and asters lifting their delicate purple blossoms into the air. The arrangement feels both nostalgic and refreshing, as if past and present meet within a single vessel. In a tiny patio, a cluster of jugs creates a corner oasis. Pebbles scatter at their base, sedum autumn joy rises in textured clusters, and Japanese anemones sway above, softening the lines with elegance. The corner that once felt empty now becomes a focal point, a place where the eye rests and the heart lingers. In farmhouse backyards, the jug planters often gather near fences or beneath pergolas, echoing the spirit of rural life. Their presence feels grounded, reminding visitors of days when objects were built to last, when clay was shaped by hand and used with care. Now, they hold not water but flowers, symbols of endurance turned into symbols of beauty. As evening approaches, lantern light falls upon the curves of the jugs, casting gentle shadows across the blooms. The colors of marigolds deepen, asters soften, and chrysanthemums gleam faintly under the glow. The corner becomes a place of intimacy, perfect for a chair tucked nearby, where one might pause with tea, listening to the hum of evening insects and the gentle rustle of leaves. These farmhouse jug corners tell a quiet story of upcycling. of honoring what once was useful, and allowing it to bloom again in a new form. They remind us that even the smallest corners of our gardens deserve attention, for in them lies the power to transform emptiness into warmth, and the forgotten into unforgettable. In gardens, art often grows alongside flowers. The junk metal painted sculptures are proof that creativity knows no limits, that even the cold, rigid scraps of iron and steel can become companions to blooms. With a touch of paint and imagination, discarded metal becomes vibrant, standing tall not as waste, but as whimsical guardians of color. Each piece begins with something forgotten, an old gear rusting in the shed, a pipe once part of a fence, or bolts that no longer hold. Instead of being hidden, they are shaped, welded, or arranged into forms that surprise the eye. Flowers that never wilt, birds frozen mid-song, insects gleaming with playful wings. Once coated in bright acrylic hues, teal, crimson, golden yellow, lavender, they lose their heaviness and begin to sing. Placed among marigolds and asters, the sculptures add contrast, the softness of petals meeting the firmness of steel. Chrysanthemums bloom nearby, echoing the bright paints with their own fiery shades, while sedum autumn joy and Japanese anemones soften the lines, weaving life into the structure. The border where they stand becomes more than functional, it turns into an outdoor gallery, where each glance reveals something unexpected. In a tiny backyard, a single sculpture can become a statement piece, catching sunlight and drawing smiles. In a farmhouse-style front yard, a collection of them creates a festival of color, mixing with the blooms to create scenes that feel both rustic and artistic. Children run to point at the shapes, recognizing flowers or animals hidden in the designs, while adults admire the ingenuity of upcycling. At twilight, lanterns light up the sculptures, and the painted surfaces gleam against the darkening sky. Shadows of metal petals or abstract forms stretch across the patio, blending art and nature in ways that are both playful and profound. The story they tell is one of resilience, metal once cast aside now reborn with purpose, strength reimagined as beauty. They remind us that nothing is too broken or too dull to become part of something new. In these junk metal sculptures, the garden gains not only decoration but also narrative, a story of transformation, a hymn to color, and a celebration of art in the everyday. When night falls, the garden changes. What was bright and playful by day becomes intimate and glowing by evening. The upcycled patio tin lanterns are at the heart of this transformation, ordinary cans reborn into vessels of light, their patterns painting stories across walls, fences, and flowers. Each lantern begins as a humble tin, once filled with food, forgotten after use. With patience, holes are carefully punched into its surface, forming stars, vines, or blossoms. A coat of paint, soft lavender, pale mint, or cheerful sunflower yellow, covers the metal, hiding its past and inviting new life. Inside, a candle flickers, and suddenly the lantern breathes with warmth. Light spills through the cutouts, creating patterns that dance across the patio floor and garden walls. In a tiny backyard or small patio, even a single lantern transforms the mood. Placed beside a planter of marigolds or asters, its glow softens the night air, while chrysanthemums gleam like jewels in the candlelight. Sedum autumn joy catches the warm tones, and Japanese anemones sway gently in the evening breeze, their pale petals reflecting the lantern's glow. Hung from a pergola beam, the lanterns form a canopy of stars, echoing the night sky above. Along a bamboo fence, they create a path of shimmering light, leading guests toward a cozy corner. In a farmhouse garden, dozens of them scattered about a gazebo or patio create a celebration, as if fireflies have gathered to keep company through the night. The beauty of these lanterns lies in their contrast, cold, discarded metal reborn as light-bringers. Their edges are softened not by their form but by the glow they give. They whisper of resourcefulness, of the magic in reuse, of how even the smallest act of creativity can turn trash into treasure. As evening deepens, the lanterns burn brighter, their painted surfaces catching the last traces of twilight. People gather near, conversations lingering longer, laughter carrying through the night. The garden becomes not just a place to see, but a place to feel, a sanctuary of warmth, memory, and charm. In every upcycled lantern, there is proof that beauty lives in the simplest things, waiting to shine when given the chance. Joy often hides in the smallest of details. The cutest bottle cap mosaic borders prove that even the tiniest piece of waste can become a treasure when placed with intention. Once overlooked and discarded, bottle caps are reborn here as tiles of color, arranged into playful mosaics that brighten the edges of tiny gardens, patios, and backyards. Each cap tells its own story, once sealing a bottle, now sealing a memory in the garden. Painted in cheerful pastels or bold rainbow shades, they gather side by side, forming borders that ripple with patterns. Flowers, stars, circles, or waves emerge from their arrangement, transforming the garden's edge into a piece of art. The ground itself becomes a canvas, and the bottle caps, a palette of joy. Around them, flowers bloom in chorus. Marigolds, golden and lively, mirror the warm tones of painted caps. Asters stretch their delicate purple blossoms, harmonizing with cooler hues of blue and green. Chrysanthemums, with their resilience and variety, complement every shade, while sedum autumn joy and Japanese anemones add texture and grace. Together, flowers and mosaics weave a tapestry that feels both rustic and whimsical. In tiny yards, these borders shine as a thrifty solution, affordable, durable, and filled with charm. On farmhouse patios or near rustic fences, they create a nostalgic feel, as if the garden itself were stitched together with patches of color. Children delight in tracing the patterns, their small fingers running across the caps, while adults admire the ingenuity, how something so insignificant could create such delight. At dusk, when lanterns glow from pergolas or gazebos, the caps reflect the soft light, shimmering like gems scattered upon the soil. The borders guide the eye, marking paths or flower beds with cheer, inviting visitors to wander slowly and notice the details. The story of these mosaics is more than craft, it is about perspective. Beauty does not always come from grandeur. Sometimes it is born from care, from patience, from choosing to see potential in the smallest things. In every bottle cap lies a possibility, and in every mosaic border lies a message. That joy is found not in what we throw away, but in what we choose to keep and transform.